Hi guys, we're going to do some review today on lessons 11 to 15. You guys have a quiz coming up. So, we're going to go over percent increase and decrease, markup and markdown, and simple interest. So my suggestion if I were you is I would try to do these problems on your own and use this video as kind of a crutch. If you feel like you will learn better by following along with the video the whole time, feel free. Just know yourself and know what will help you the most. Okay, so exercise 1, we have Kevin increased his stamp collections by 12 stamps. He originally had 12 stamps. What is his percent increase? So here we're talking about percent increase and decrease. And our formula for that is we have the amount of change. I'm going to do a little triangle or a delta for change over the original. And that's equal to our percent over 100. And this formula here is going to help us find both the increase and the decrease. In your regular math class, this top number here, the amount of change, you may recognize that as the amount is going up or the amount is going down. I tried to generalize it by just saying, how much does it change? Sometimes it's easier to think that way. So we're told that he increases his stamp collection by 12. So that goes on the top. His original amount is 20 stamps. That goes on the bottom. We're looking for the percent increase, so we're going to name that X over 100. To solve this, we're going to cross multiply. So we have 20X equals 1,200. To get X by itself, we divide both sides by 20, so we get X equals 60%. So that means we had a 60% increase in cards when we got those 12. All right, moving on to exercise 2. An item that was selling for $44 is reduced to $33. Find the percent decrease in price. So again, we're going to use that formula up top, that amount of change over original equals percent over 100, to find that missing value, to find that percent decrease. So the amount of change here is not directly given to us. We have it originally cost $44 and it goes down to $33. So the amount of the price change is the difference between those, which is 11. Because 11 or 44 minus 33 is 11. Over the original, this is the amount it was before it was reduced to 33, originally sold for 44. We're looking for that percent, so that's X over 100. To solve this proportion, again, we're going to cross multiply. So we get 44X equals 1,100. To get X alone, we divide both sides by 44. So we get X equals 25%. So this was a 25% decrease. Our next example is about marking down. Izzy's ice cream shop is going out of business. For their last day of business, they are marking down ice cream cones by 80%. What markdown means is you take a percent of the amount and you subtract it from the original. Markup is the opposite. Markup means you take a percent of the original and you add it on. They're charging more. If each cone usually sells for $2.50, what is the selling price of each cone? So markup and markdown, your proportion is essentially the same, but it's in different context. So the markup, markdown, it's going to be the amount, so the markup or the markdown, over the original equals the percent over 100. And this amount here is either the markup or the markdown, how much is being taken off or added onto the original amount. So we're looking for that. We're looking for the selling price. So first we need to find how much is being taken off. So we're going to have X over that original price of $2.50 equals, it's marked down by 80% over 100. To solve this again, we're going to cross multiply. We find a pattern here that for these types of percent problems, when we have a proportion, we need to cross multiply to solve. So we have 100x equals 200, divide both by 100, and x equals 2. Now this is not our final answer. this is how much we take off of the original price. So we have a final step here that we didn't have before. We have that original $2.50. We're subtracting $2 because that's what we took off. That's the markdown. And we're left with 50 cents. This is the sales price. Do not forget that last step. Beautiful. Exercise 4. If you borrow $9,000 at 5% for 8 years, how much will you pay back at the end of the term? So, if we're talking about a percent of interest, we need to use the interest formula. That's what they mean by $9,000 at 5% for 8 years. Those 3 pieces of information together are going to require you to solve for interest. So our interest formula is I equals PRT, where I stands for interest, P stands for principal, or the original amount, R stands for rate, or the percent, and T stands for time. So let's plug in what we know. We borrow $9,000. Borrow is the principal. The rate is 5%, so we have to convert that 5% to a decimal. To convert a percent to a decimal, we take the decimal, move it to the left 2 places, add your zeros. The time is 8 years, so we plug in 8. When we multiply all 3 of those guys together, we get 3,600. So that's the amount of interest you have to pay. We are not done. We're being asked, how much will you have to pay back at the end? Don't forget, you have to pay back that initial $9,000 plus whatever interest they charge you. So that means at the end of your term of borrowing money, you're going to have to give back altogether $12,600. And last but not least, we have another interest problem here because we see the word invest. And invest usually indicates to us that we are using interest. So, how long must $560 be invested at a rate of 7% to earn? We're going to change this number because this is how it is on your paper. The 448, we're going to change it to 392 because that's how it's on your paper. In interest, write your answer in terms of years. So again, we have that formula. I equals PRT. We have our initial value. The initial one is whatever you put into the bank. So that's 560. The rate is 7%. You have to turn that percent to a decimal. So we move that decimal point over twice, and it's 0.07. We're looking for the time, so we keep T. And we earn, which is our interest, $392. Now we have to solve for T. So 560 times 0.07 is 39.2. T equals 392. To get T by itself, we have to divide both sides by whatever's in front of T, 39.2. So the T value is equal to 10. So the investment needs to be in the account for 10 years.